Hello friends, am I recording? Yeah, I'm recording, okay. Hello friends, welcome back for Bitcoin Technical Analysis with me, your pal Rocky Outcrop, and in today's episode we're going to be checking out the technical analysis and a little bit of sort of fundamental. I'm on XRP over there. Excuse me, how rude. Yeah, and we'll be checking out a little bit of sort of fundamental analysis. Now, of course, fundamental analysis is something that we don't normally do on this channel, and I'm not going to be fully serious about it. You can see all the tabs up above my head there. I'm just going to be talking about disaster stuff for the crack. But anyway, what are we looking at in terms of the technical analysis? And I don't really have an awful lot that I want to talk about in today's episode. As you can see, for the last few days, we've just been going sideways, and there isn't a great deal to talk about. What there is to talk about, I suppose, is if you look towards things like here. Was it there? Actually, didn't check that good enough, sorry. But here, certainly here, and on the RSI and on the stochastics, you can see very much that we actually have bearish divergence across the tops of this on this 4-hour chart, this 4-hour so-called 4-hour upward trend. Now, am I totally enthusiastic about this being an upward trend? No, I'm not. We're only making ups highs by like sheer millimeters, but you know, the bearish divergence is there. What kind of counteracts that? I'd have to point to other things like, you know, you've got Ethereum is just pure sideways. There's not, you know, and of course they don't work in lockstep with each other, but there's none of that there. Again, none of it on Litecoin. On Link, what is there on Link? You know, it's pure sideways there as well. So, you know, it's like we're not really seeing that there on the other assets in this sort of similar industry, but you know, you have it here. So that's a kind of a warning sign for folk, I suppose. And what was that warning against? Well, there isn't really anything else to talk about on any other stories, and I appreciate that it's full of noise, this chart, and that if you're new to the channel, it's really hard to see. Really, just the words that I'm saying are the important ones, I suppose. Really, overall, there is bearish divergence on the 4-hour chart. There has been for a wee while, you know, but we're just going sideways. We could, you know, just simply operate within this range here of this channel. We could see it drop as low, I suppose, as 5,900 or whatever if we wanted to visit the bottom of that channel. If we really wanted to be negative about things and sort of retest sort of crucial areas, it could go down to 5,500 again. In the meantime, we're kind of looking between these two lines here. The upper side is at 6,900 and the lower side is at 6,450, and between those two areas is where the price is kind of stuck currently, and that's where I'm managing. That's where I'd be managing risk and everything else if I were you myself. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, so that doesn't constitute financial advice. I don't know what it does constitute. It sounds an awful lot like me to be honest. It sounds like financial advice if you ask me, but it isn't according to the law. So, you know, it's not. But anyway, we're between the 618 there and the 382 here of the smaller Fibonacci's. Now, I appreciate that, of course, there's a lot that's really difficult to see that as I scroll around and all the rest of it, but that's where we are. That's what's going on. What's really changed? Not an awful lot. What things are actually changing in the next while is that there is daylight saving time. No, not daylight saving time. Beast mode. We're going into beast mode in the UK, BST, British Summer Time, at I think on Sunday or whatever. So if you're interested in how that operates, you know, so you only get a couple of times a year to see it happen. What happens? Well, nothing, because Bitcoin doesn't go into beast mode. It just stays the same. So anyway, if you're in the UK come this time next week, for instance, you're looking at your daily close being 1 a.m. rather than midnight. Okay, just a little sort of word to the wise, to the uninitiated, I suppose. What's happening here is just like I say, we've got nothing really. You could maybe stretch and say there's a trend to the upside in the 4-hour chart, and if you did want to stretch to that, then you'd have to also include the fact that there's bearish divergence on there. Or you could just say, look, there isn't a trend really. We're just kind of just going sideways, in which case, you know, that's fair enough too. But what does it work against? You know, and if we go up the time frames, 12 hours chart, no, actually skip that one. The 24-hour chart, well, you know, the 24-hour chart is where we normally look here on this channel, and you know, there's not an awful lot to be said here. For instance, you know, this isn't showing you anything of note. If anything, it's just the trend's just dying off or whatever, but it hasn't turned around into a positive trend yet on the daily or anything like that. RSI's, you know, come up out of the bearish control zone, but it looks like it wants to sort of dip back down towards it. Who knows? That's where the moving average is. It'll probably dip in there and visit it. Who knows? But yeah, I'm just building up. I'm wanting to get up to the higher time frames and the weekly time frame. As it happens, we've had a couple of really great weeks and everything, but we're really very much in a downward pattern. Now, I'm really hating the noise on the chart right now. This particular Fibonacci here that's in here, can I get rid of that? Yeah, excellent. Well, that's a little bit less noise, but you know, essentially we're kind of in this really horrible descending broadening wedge, you could say, if you wanted to, on the weekly, and that maybe that's going to then continue on for this upward trend pattern, you know, maybe. But you know, it's not. We're in a downtrend on the weekly, essentially, is what I'm talking about. But over here on the monthly, finally, I've made it to it and get rid of all this noise here. Actually, should have done that earlier. Rid of all this noise here and make this little point. On the one hand, you know, where we are right now in the monthly candle shows that we're just above here, this sort of crucial area at 6,666, which is really positive to see in terms of the longer upward term upside potential. But that's not where I want us to see the candle closing. By the end of the month, if the candle can close though above 7,222 or 7,150 actually. If we can close above 7,150, then what you're looking at is actually, it's weird to say it, you're looking at an upward trend on the monthly time frame still being intact potentially, because this was our high here in the monthly in January. Then if this comes in here and actually closes about, say, at 7,200, right? Say it closes at 7,200 and it manages to make its way up to there's that 21 EMA again. Then in fact, what will have happened is we'll have had a higher low on the monthly candle. Can you believe that? Anyway, then you could be saying long term that you're still bullish, which is remarkable, but because we're towards the end of the month now, I think it's probably about time to point that out. Of course, you know, it's a fair distance away from where we are. We're looking at another 10% change in prices, but if we just nip over to the 24-hour again and take out the old measuring stick and just stick it between there and there, for instance, that's 20%, you know, that's just like there, it's 20% in that little. So could we move 10%? Sure we could, you know, we've done it often enough. What about this green candle here? How big a move was that? That was 11%, you know. So could we move 10% up towards the end of the month and actually close in a higher low on the monthly time frame? Well, that's what I'm looking out for, really, and that's basically all I have to say about the technicals right now. If you want more information about the lower time frames or the 24-hour time frame and below, and where we are currently right now, well, actually we've been in the same place the last 3 days, so go ahead by all means and check out the last 3 days of Bitcoin videos. They're actually 50% entertainment, I must say. And thanks very much to anybody who likes, comments and subscribes. I really genuinely appreciate it. Massively appreciate it. Anyway, what did I want to get on to talk about? And if you've been spying at the top of my tabs up here, you already know what I'm kind of going to go on to say, but let's have a wee look-see nevertheless. Now, first off, we have a message from this fatty here. This guy, he's the Prime Minister in the UK, and you got to wonder if the Prime Minister in the UK catches coronavirus, then what's going to happen to all the average ministers? You know, I mean, this guy is the Prime, right? So what about mediocre and sort of end of life minister? And actually, I am making a joke here based on the word prime and the pun of it all. But imagine it goes into the House of Lords. If you're in the UK and you've seen the House of Lords, in fact, let's just have a wee look and see what the House of Lords looks like in the UK. If it has a video on here, what does it look like? It's final day Lords debate, House of Lords. So there's a lot of them in here. Let's have a look at the average age. He's not young. None of them are young. That guy's not young. That guy's not young. They're not young behind him. That guy's not young. That guy's definitely not young. That guy's not young. That guy's not young. That guy is not young. Here's a whole load of pictures. Not a single person on the screen right now is young. Just wanted to point that out. Anyway, you make what draw your own conclusions from that. Here we have Boris. He's talking to us here. He wants to say that he's self-isolating and will continue to work from home.
Bring you up to speed with something that's happening today, which is that I've developed.
I think it's great. It's great. It makes you want to hug him. Get all that coronavirus out of him. So what does it remind you of? Well, here's London Bridge. This is live. This is live, apparently. Now, I don't know how live it is in terms of if it's just pictures or if it's, it just moved there. It's live, right? So we've got liveness to a degree. And what does this remind you of? Now, it might remind you of nothing because you might be from the US or whatever and not really know what I'm talking about. Well, this is that scaffolding in the background. I think that's around Big Ben, is it? whatever. You've got all this. You've got this is Westminster Bridge, right? And Westminster Bridge is a famous bridge, made, of course, particularly famous. And excuse me if I get this wrong. I don't think so. There's that lion there. Yeah, so that lion there is visible here. And this movie, 28 Days Later, end of the world stuff. Normally that bridge is completely packed, so packed full of people that this movie that they made here, one of the opening scenes of the movie was to show you him walking up this bridge, this bridge here, and there being hardly anybody, or being nobody on it. And that was shocked everybody. It was like, wow, that's amazing. Seeing that there in the UK, I remember watching that first time going, wow, that's amazing. How did they do it? So I looked it up afterwards. They had to film it at night time and use all this like bright lights and cinematography techniques and whatnot to make it look like it was the real deal. I think that's what happened anyway. So, and even at that, they could only get a few sort of seconds of the bridge before they had to like let people start going back over it again here in this clip. So so that's what that reminds me of. Is that what that reminds you of? I wonder. Let me know in the comments below if it is the end of the world or not, because this guy here, he woke up and walked up the bridge, and it didn't take him long really to realise, it didn't really take him long at all to realise that the world was completely effed. Now, if you'd just woken up from a coma, there's your own lion. If you'd just woken up from a coma today in London and you then went out onto the street and were just walking around, then you'd maybe get very, very scared all of a sudden if you'd watched 28 Days Later in the past. I'm just saying, look at this. This is the Trevi Fountain. You can see it's live. We car just drove there. There's no one on the entire screen. No one on the entire screen. Look at that, the water's flowing lovely. Wouldn't it be beautiful to go there and check out that wonderful fountain today? It would be a great day for it, actually, to be perfectly honest with you. It would be, but you'd probably get a heck of a fine by the Roman police there for doing so, because nobody's allowed outside. And it's the end of the world stuff again. It's crazy. It's crazy because what does this normally look like? Now, of course, again, if you're from America, you might not recognize it. I'll close that, and I'll just show you what it normally looks like. This is what it normally looks like. It's packed constantly. If you've ever been to the Mona Lisa in the Louvre, for instance, in Paris, if you haven't been, don't bother going. It's crap, by the way. No one will tell you that, but that's the reality of it. It's crap. The picture's small, and on a wall we have to stand about 12 feet away from it, or 10 or whatever. There's a big barrier, and there's more people than this all standing there take pictures of it like some sort of paparazzi scene. It's really weird. It's bizarre looking at it. In fact, on the way into the Mona Lisa, there's all these Botticelli masterpieces around you. In fact, the room that are way better, and everyone just walks past them, not even looking. And the room itself that Mona Lisa is in, the ceiling of it is a better piece of art than the Mona Lisa itself. Although I'll probably go to art hell for saying that. So anyway, there you go. That's what that's hilarious. That's what is the binoculars. Is that what it's so funny? It's so fucked up. No, it's not binoculars. It's binocular papers. So that's what that. So Anyway, just kind of making the point that the world is kind of effed at the minute. Here's Dam Square. Have you ever seen Dam Square? Been to Amsterdam? If you've been to Amsterdam, then you've been to Dam Square, probably. There's the Grand Skopolski Hotel up in the background. And normally this thing's absolutely packed. You can see there's a few people kind of cycling around. That's something. See these two right here? That's something that's nice about Amsterdam. In fact, you always see adults and kids cycling together. There's a few kids cycling around there. They've got these weird bikes that are like wheelbarrow bikes where you put the kid in the front of them. Kind of seems a bit dangerous as well. But I like that about Amsterdam. Anyway, this place is normally completely packed. For some reference, that's just an average photo there. It's normally completely busy, really, really busy. Well, that's actually, I've been there normally much busier, but you can see these streets up here, they're all normally packed. Everywhere's packed, busy, 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 and it's just basically dead at the minute. And that, then you might still be thinking that's miles away. This is last year, then, in April 2019, in Duffy Square. That's that bit of Times Square. You can see that's kind of just your average day there. Lots of folk. You can look over here and see, lots and lots and lots of folk. That's what that's normally like. But what have we got here instead? Well, look, there's a wide cam thing. You can see there's basically no one around. If we take a look at the street, I have to watch a bloody advert. Okay, well, the adverts are playing. Let's go check out what the head of the Jehovah's Witness thinks about the. Have I got it up? I've not got it up. We'll have to check that after. Yeah, okay, so advert's done. Whatever, just skipped it. And you can see that they ain't selling very many tickets at the minute. There's 2 people there though, which is quite cool. Oh, 3. Wow. It's doing some social distancing though, at least, or whatever. There's one of those cool American trucks there. I say cool, but also kind of like they look garish and awful in any country outside of America, but what are you going to do? I think they're cool. But let's see, Duffy Square, which is what we're looking at a second ago on the YouTubes. Well, it's just dead currently. Really, it's just dead. Let's take, we've already looked at the big wide one. Here's the crossroads, if it'll let me click it. Anyway, it won't let me click it, whatever. You get the point, right? You get the point that this is not what we expect to see. This is not what we wanted to see ever in New York, ever. And here we are, and it's happening. So I'm just kind of drawing the point that these this here on the Dow Jones, we've got a red day today here at the minute. It's a doji currently, and over here on SPY, similar deal, but it's green. I'm kind of worried about it. So the weakness in here is real. We've got the biggest ever stimulus package ever, bigger than the Manhattan Project and NASA and all the rest of it combined. So like that's kind of interesting and good, I suppose, in a way for the economy there. It's just gone red. But how will it handle any sort of sign of weakness? Because there is fragility there, definitely. There's zero productivity, zero demand, zero supply. The world is hiding at the minute inside, and this is definitely going to have a knock-on effect as well for all the figures and that. And you got the unemployment figures in America released there, the worst ever unemployment figures, something like shot up to 4.5 million or something like that. I don't really know. I honestly I don't actually know the figures off the top of my head. I just know that they're really, 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 really bad. And normally you see some sort of pullback in the economy whenever you get something like that happen. Of course, those figures were released, and during that day there was a massive big uprise. I don't think any of that's particularly real, really overall, to be honest with you. So I'm kind of curious as to how things will pan out in the long term. And this guy here, I think, sums up what a lot of people are thinking right now. If you haven't seen this, you might enjoy it. We can watch it together for a laugh. And yeah, I mean, my goodness. I'll just mute my microphone actually so you can hear him speaking properly.
So the events unfolding around us are making clearer than ever that we're living in the final part of the last days, undoubtedly the final part of the final part of the last days, shortly before the last day of the last days.
I shouldn't laugh. I shouldn't laugh. Really shouldn't laugh. But that's awful. Anyway, his economic outlook is like, it's not good. He's probably thinking you should go short, because it's the final part of the last days. Anyway, that's basically the world that we're living in, though. You can joke about these things if you want to and whatever. Like, I've had a bit of fun looking at it, but the reality is, it's very scary reality that we've got people out there in the world who are genuinely believing that it's the end of the world. You've got the pestilence and whatever. You've got nobody walking around in the streets. You've got the biggest ever economic stimulus coming in just to keep things afloat. They're not actually, it's not like it's not like productivity's gone up. Nobody's able to go to work and whatever. You've got the Prime Minister in the UK's got it, so all the average ministers, that joke, the House of Lords is screwed. There's got people saying that Iran's covering up its death count and stuff like that. You've got 14% reinfection rates in China. Second wave yet to come. Autumn will be a disaster again, potentially. You've got social distancing measures meant to be put in place for 6 months in the UK, potentially. So, if that happens, that means no Edinburgh Festival. It means like no football matches for the Premier League, whatever. How are they going to survive? It's just crazy, 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 crazy stuff going on. And in the face of that, you've got this big economic stimulus package pushing the prices of stuff up. I would just, I just warn just to be cautious, because of course the truth is, if we don't get up to 7,200, then what we've done is we've set a low on the monthly, and we've got this big old monthly downward trend. And like we said back in December and January when we were looking at this, that there is always the possibility, where is the jobby? There is always the possibility of having to pop this back onto the chart again. Oh god, I was getting used to not having anything on there. And saying that we're still in this downward channel here that we have been in since June 2019, and we're right back in the middle of it now anyway, that's for sure. So let's see how things pan out during this month. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy beast mode when it does come up around the corner. I'll be making more videos before then. I think I've got the cold at the minute, so that's a bit of a shame. I've not got COVID. I can't like double up on these videos and do a sort of COVID truth serum now for Scythia and all that sort of jazz, but whatever. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.